Welcome to IDG. IDG is the Informal Discussion Group, and it's a carry forward from our days in college, St. Stephen's College. In these days of pandemic, it's moved on to the digital platform, and over the past few months, this IDG has become a place to have and listen to meaningful conversations. So today I have a banker turned actor, actress, and a film producer. And Shyam Benegal discovered her when she was in college. But her dad thought that films were not a place for his daughter. He wanted her to become an IAS officer. Like all good dads, I think he wanted his daughter to become the IAS officer. But Namita Lal did not want to become an IAS officer. And she did not become an IAS officer, but she did indeed become a film actress. And she plays Rabbo in the recently released film Lihaaf. And I'm delighted that Namita is a guest on IDG today. And I know that she has many stories to tell. And I look forward to listening to each one of them. Welcome, Namita.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonu. Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor, seriously.
No, so for this platform is actually a great place to discover things about our fellow Stephanians that we didn't know. We meet them, we talk to them, but there is such a wealth of talent in the Stephanians, and this platform actually just brings it out. So thank you. So Namita, you and Priyanka Chopra have something in common. I mean, both your early lives were in Bareilly.
Yes.
She did not finish her school, right? But you came to college, St. Stephen's College. So tell us about your days in college. Remind us, which batch were you in? I mean, if you want to tell us your age.
86. Even though as a joke, I told Sonu that when Ashish posted it on the Stephanians chat on the Facebook, I said, "Hello, take away the batch number year from there, please."
Yeah.
I'm in an industry where while we say age is just a number, but I said batch to hata do yaar wahan se.
बिल्कुल. So without telling us the batch, tell us what were your days in college like? You came from Bareilly, Delhi was a new city. Just talk us through that time.
Yeah, so I was saying, Manisha, I said, no, I am very proud 83, 86 batch history honors. And I came from Bareilly Hartman College, and as luck would have it, or luck or whatever, I was welcomed by Mr. Rajpal, who was also from Bareilly. And so I still remember my first kind of meeting with him. He said, you're from Bareilly. I'm also from Bareilly. And later I heard he was quite a well-known person in Bareilly. And then, so I came from a very small town, Hartman College. And Stephens mein aayi, so it was all very, very new. And so my nickname in college was Bareilly ki Chamia. And my best friend is Chamia, हाँ.
वो क्या कहते हैं ना, होनहार पूत के क्या, whatever, so that
something. So abhi if Navina or Shailaja, if they come and if they ever talk to you, they still call me Chamia. So my name for my friends in college is still Chamia. So it was all very new, and as again luck would have it, I became part of the Shakespeare Society. Discovered I was always doing a bit of theatre, and my family was heavily into music and all. हम लोग लखनऊ के कायस्थ हैं, तो हम लोग काफी नौटंकी family है. So Shakespeare Society में I was, obviously I was hanging around with Divya and Sagarika and Navina, who's a dancer. And I was selected to do the Hindi play Badi Bua Ji. I played Anu. And Viren Saxena, who's from NSD, was the director. तो बस पहला साल गई थी कि हाँ हिस्ट्री ऑनर्स के बाद सीधा IAS एग्जाम 3 साल बाद और फिर उसके बाद जो भी करेंगे. That was my dad's graph for me. But हम तो theatre, I started doing theatre, and I just fell in love with the whole process of that theatre. Badi Buaji was a revelation to me. I would love the camaraderie, the late nights. Madhvi was with me, Puri, and lots of others. I think in the group also, people said, "Don't you remember me? I was the villain." Who was it? So I said, I sent a message, and I said, but I was out till 2 a.m. in the night, singing after rehearsals, hanging out, drinking, and partying and working really hard with Mr. Saxena. Viren Saxena was a very tough director. Uske baad, once it opened in Kimani, houseful shows, and oh, it was just I just got the bug so badly. But what happened was with that, my grades obviously would drop, and I was not spending so much time in. I was attending all the classes, but I wasn't spending so much time after college. So my dad started getting very worried, and then as the thing finished, and on the fifth day of the play, last day, Mr. Viren Saxena came to Viruda. We used to call Viruda, came to me and said that yeah, Shyam Benegal wants to meet your dad. He has a film in mind, which I thank my stars never got made, but otherwise I would have been very very bugged. But he's making a film on three women staying in Delhi in an apartment. The eldest one is is Shabana Azmi. The middle one is Ratna Pathak, and he's looking for a college going girl.
Wow,
So
that would have been a super cast.
yeah, and it was when he told me the story, it was a very very interesting story of three women on their own in an apartment in Delhi. But my dad said no. I mean, he's a very liberal dad, but he said no, no, no way, no way. I'm meeting him. You want to do whatever you want to do. I'm not meeting him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would call myself pretty independent minded, and I would have done it, but somehow inside me, I got scared of doing things without my dad's approval and support.
Yeah.
And
So I don't blame you because we all come from a time when we did have to. I mean, we were just brought up that way that we had to listen to what our parents said. Today's generation is different. So I'm not surprised that you listen to your dad. And before we move on to the next phase in your life, just tell me what drew you to theater. What made you passionate about it? Was it that you acted in school? Was it your first brush on stage? What gave you that high?
I was always on stage in school. So whether it was singing on the Independence Day, Happy Independence Day, everybody on stage for a big crowd of people, who's who, doing theater. I did Tale of Two Cities in the 12th standard, pretty big production. So I was always on stage. I knew I loved being on stage. But when I got this big canvas in Delhi and the exposure to Mandi House, I think the camaraderie of production, the kind of feeling that you get when you come together with a group of people for a common purpose, and you're doing a totally different character, stepping out of your comfort zone, uh, going on stage and dying 1,000 deaths before you step on stage. All that is a high. It's a high that if people who've been on stage would understand what it means. But I got that high, and it was addictive, and I would have stuck to it for the rest of my life, but that didn't happen.
But
And then,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So then after college, you ended up at IRMA, I think, for your
yeah.
MBA. And there again, you got this super opportunity by another legendary man called Kurian. But here again, your dad said no way.
That
So
was a bit of that, a bit of me. Yeah, Dr. Kurian had never had a EA or chief of staff in his life. Uh, and Miss Patel used to be always his right hand person, but he never had his own. So he used to come to campus quite often, and he strangely took a liking to me when he used to talk to me, he used to guide me on some big events. I used to manage the event, and he used to guide me. So at the end of the thing, he said, I want a chief of staff and I want her. And then he spoke to me and he said, the only thing in this is you'll have to travel everywhere with me. And he used to travel a lot globally, India. So he said, so when I came back to Delhi, I was very excited, Dr. Kurian. And then my dad said, how are you going to study for your exams? IAS was still what I had to do. So IRMA was just to get a degree in case I didn't like the IAS. And I was quite sure in my heart that I'm not going to survive it. Being what I was and how I am, I don't think I'll survive the being in that environment. But that's why I did the MBA, so that I had a choice. But I was back to studying, and I feel sorry about saying that, but I sent a note to Dr. Kurian saying, parents, I have to be with my mom for 3-4 months. Can you give me some time? just try to pass that time. If I didn't get into the mains, I would have run away to work with him. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm told, or you've told me, that he never did have an EA after you refused him.
I didn't go. I didn't go. I think he
You
kept
didn't
waiting
know.
for me.
Yeah, yeah. So then, after saying no to two great opportunities for you, it was actually your dad who found you this opening in Standard Chartered Bank, and then, a place where you spent many years and made a name for yourself, and it traveled globally. So, what happened? What happened?
So
Are you
again,
actually a banker?
I was back in Delhi, and Papa was posted there in the revenue services, and we were in Rabindranagar next to Khanmagar. I used to study. I had history pretty much under my belt, and I had management. These were the two subjects I was taking. So I was pretty much on top of both the main papers. Taken the prelims, I was just studying, and he found a little ad in Times of India which said Standard Chartered looking for officer trainees. And this was the number to call. So he gave me that cutting, and he said, so you're not really spending all your time studying, and you're getting bored at home. Why don't you just take a bank job? I said, what is this Standard Chartered? He said, it's a bank. So I said, okay. So he said, it'll be a 9 to 5 job. You don't have to take any exam like the Indian banks. So just go for the interview. So I said, okay, fine. I called them up. They called me for the interview, did a few written tests, series of interviews, kept going to Parliament Street. I remember it was only one branch. And then nothing happened. And I started studying again. Mains was about, I think, 3 months away. Baba got a call because at that, no mobiles, right? So he picked up the call which came at home saying, we've selected your daughter. And then my dad and my mom apparently spent an entire night, and the next morning debating whether to tell me about it.
Right. Wow.
Because it was too close now. So they didn't come back to us for 2 months. So they were not going to tell me. And then Papa said to Mummy that if we don't tell her, she's going to blame us all her life for something as crazy as this. So they told me. And I said, okay, I just want to go and try it out. Let me see. That was the day I stepped into Standard Chartered Bank, didn't step out for 29 years, 30 years.
Yeah, can you imagine? And just as a matter of interest, what was your starting salary?
Starting salary for a full year of officer trainee was 1,200 rupees a month.
Really? Wow. You've come a long way, baby, as it said.
I remember fighting with the CEO, very, very senior guys. I was very vocal always. So first training, since we went to Mumbai, and I said, how do you pay somebody 1,200 bucks? I'm still living off my parents, and that's not what is supposed to happen when you join a bank and this and that. And actually, they then went to the HR committee and got around to changing the whole thing. But as soon as I was confirmed, I got promoted as well along with confirmation, and I got my first 12,000 rupees a month salary.
Wow. Yeah, that must have been nice. Yeah.
12,000 rupees a month. My dad at that time, being commissioner, his take home was like 7,000 rupees a month.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, so then of course I never took the IAS exam. I used to go to Mumbai. Imagine going on a flight to Mumbai as a young kid, like, 23 years old. And 12,000 bucks was king's ransom.
Yeah, you couldn't spend it in a month. You couldn't spend it in a month, even if you lived the high life. I mean, coming from our middle class values. Yeah, so then you worked fabulously for, you said, many, many years as a banker. But a chance conversation at a petrol pump kind of just changed your life, right? And you got back into acting. Tell me what happened and how did that conversation happen? What was that conversation that got you back into acting?
So I spent at that time, I think it was 26 years in the bank, and I'd done many, many countries. And as I told you, I was so bugged about this whole theater thing. It never got out of my thing. So I used to joke with my dad saying, if I die now, my booth is going to come back and haunt you. And everybody kept saying, why don't you do a little bit of, dinner theaters used to happen in Vietnam, Thailand, and expat community. I said, no, I'm not into the small stuff. this was not what I wanted to do. And I don't want to even hear. I never went to plays. I stopped going to see theater. That's how bugged I was about the whole thing. And then I came back to, and then I was in Singapore. And my there's a big playwright and somebody who does a big production every year, who also works with children. And my children were working with her. And I used to tell the story to everybody I could speak to that I was not supposed to be a banker. I was supposed to be an actor. In fact, in a very big board meeting in Vietnam where I was CEO, when the board came, I just got my Vietnamese legal head, who sent me a message saying, you said in the board meeting, I'm not supposed to be a banker. I was supposed to be an actor. He said, your opening statement was that. So I was always saying that. So everybody knew. So she met me at a petrol station. She said, I've written a script and you're going to come and do one of the roles. So I said, no, I have no chance. Why did you even think of me? And I have a job which makes me travel, every couple of months I'm out of the country, and and I don't have time for rehearsals and all. No way, I haven't done stage for 25 years. And she said, no, I've written a role. I'll work with you on the weekends. I'll work with you on the weekdays. And I know what got into her. And she said, you are going to do this role. I said, okay, fine. And I don't know what happened to me. I just said, okay, tell me what the script is. And when she told me the script, it was a spoof on a Bollywood family, kind of a Punjabi Bollywood family. My role was to play a 70-year-old BG of a Bollywood family who is 90 minutes on stage, who talks in crass, like Punjabi English, but, like...
Give us a sample.
Shut up, boy! That. Or either and Ghantiya Shantiya ke bina to film to is not going to become a hit, na, that kind of English. So, and with a white sari, and I saw that. I said, are you kidding me? I play a 70-year-old BG for what? Am I going to? And I don't have that. She said, I was not going to cast you as Namita Lal on stage, right? So I said, okay. And then I had the toughest 3 months or 4 months after that. I used to run back from office, get the worst firing of my life from the director. She almost picked up a vase and once threw it at me, because I would come from office and I couldn't say, I would say, shut up, boy. And she would say, drop that banker accent. Oh, God. I said, the kaap hasgi. But then finally, when I did it, oh, my God.
Fabulous, huh?
What a high. I went to go for social gathering. Nobody knew me because I was not from the theatre circle. I was a banker also. Nobody knows me. And I would be sitting in a dinner table, and people would say, "Oh, BG ko dekha tha when she would do." So I had a gesture where I would go like this and say, "Stress ho raha hai." That was my big thing. Stress hai ji. So she said, when she do this, the whole audience after 2 times would start saying, stress, Haji. And I said, oh, you like that, BG? That was me. They said, what are you talking about? I said, that was me. And that just, that was what I just got.
That must have been a high. Yeah. So then, while you were doing this, the first germs of this movie Lihaaf started happening, and that is a story almost like a film story which has its genesis back in your college days. Can you tell us how did that whole process of you ultimately being part of Lihaaf happen?
I'll try to say it in short, because it's a story which people have said should be a little short film on its own. So after I did this first play, I again got hooked. I started getting calls for many things, and I joined the Anupam Kher workshop. He called, and his people called here saying, do the advanced, you don't have to do the thing. As part of that, there was a workshop we got Lihaaf to do, and I played Rabbo. That got selected for the first big Indian Hindi theatre festival in Singapore. So I did it on stage with a largish group of people. And again, off stage, they wouldn't recognize Rabbo. Rabbo's character is such that, I just started getting so involved with the whole backstory of Rabbo and Ismat Chuktai and, and all of those things. And when I was going on stage, the director was an NSD lady. She's from Nawaz's batch. She was in Singapore at that time. And I told her, this should really be a film. I wonder why there's never a film. She said, fire was made on this, but the family has never sold copyrights of this because we can't do it without copyrights. We can do theatre. But there's a director in India who's looking at buying copyrights and he's pretty close to the family. And why don't you write to him? I said, you know him? He said, I know of him. He's a Kashmiri. She was also a Kashmiri. So I said, so give me the number. He said, I don't have the number. You write on Messenger. So I wrote to Rahat Kazmi at that time from the green room, just like that, no idea of films, nothing, saying, Rahat, hi Rahat, I'm sitting with Neelu Dogra and about to go on stage to play Rabbo for Lihaaf. I believe you are looking at making a film. If you ever think of auditioning for Rabbo, I'll be available. I didn't know anything about how Bollywood is done or auditions or whatever. I said, I'll be very happy to audition. करके भेज दिया. I said, Bollywood director का मुझे phone करेगा, whatever. He's not going to call me. Second day he replied saying, oh, great to know, and I know Neelu from Kashmir, and so nice to see that you guys are doing theatre in Singapore, and we have not been able to get the copyrights yet, but as soon as we do, we'll get in touch with you. So you were like, okay, fine. I said, thank you so much. But he said, if you ever come to Mumbai, try to get in touch with me. I do want to talk to you and see you. And then again, for over a year, I kept going to Mumbai for work. I was going there every almost 3 months or so. But every time I would fix up a time with him, it was never happening because I was either in Nariman Point or in Bandra Taj Lands and in the office there, Bandra Kurla. He was in Andheri. And then he would fix a time for 7 o'clock in the evening. And then he would call, I'm still in a studio. At 10 o'clock, he would call me saying, we can meet now. I said, it'll take me an hour. I say, Bollywood director saying, meet now, 11 baje raat mein, what am I going to do? Who are these guys?
It goes against all posh committee and all posh regulations, right?
Like, are you kidding me? All the stuff I'd heard. I said, this guy is calling me to meet him at 11 o'clock at night. No, that's not happening. So I would say, no, Rahat, if we can meet next time, then I come here. It's never happened. And then, yeah, that's where the story gets interesting. And I did about 12 productions in Singapore. And I also started thinking of a production company, got permission from the bank to do a theatre production of my own. And out of the blue, Rahat one day sent me a messenger saying, got the copyrights, ready to shoot in about 4 months' time. This was in September of 2017. Are you still keen on playing Rabbo? And so it was October. I said, yeah. I was like shocked. Then I said, so do I come for an audition? He said, no audition, just come on the WhatsApp. And I want to just see you and talk to you. So I went on WhatsApp video. He said, can you talk a bit about Rabbo? And can you talk in Hindi and, in that language? And I knew Rabbo really well from the theatre production. So I went deep into Ismat and Lihaaf and Rabbo in my Hindi, Urdu, Lucknow ki to hui. He said, your Hindi Urdu is very, very pure and very, very good. It's very sophisticated. So for Rabbo, I say, on stage, I got it down to the Aligarh, 1920s, whatever. So then he said, okay, fine. Let me tell you the thing. And are you willing to come in April, May 2018 to do the shoot? And we're planning it in Lucknow or Srinagar. So I said, yeah, fine. And now my mind started thinking, banker, how to go do a film. And then again, after 5 days, he called me saying, we were doing a film in December, which we're not doing. All the actors are ready to do the shoot for the first part of the Lihaaf part of the thing in December. This is about 1 month away. Can you come? And there I was thinking, shit, 3 weeks down the line, he's saying, come to Mumbai, costume, workshop, Srinagar. I said, okay. That was the time. I just said, okay. Didn't tell anybody.
Not even the bank.
I didn't tell anybody. I don't know whether I'll be in front of the camera, whether it'll work or not. No idea. So I didn't tell anybody. I had taken a week off in November, and then I was going to work in Sanatar Mumbai for a week. So used up all of that, landed up in Mumbai, took a flight, went to Srinagar during my holiday. Only my dad knew. Meanwhile, my family also, only my younger daughter knew that I'd gone to shoot.
Yeah.
Landed up in Srinagar in dead winter's December, playing my first role of first film, first camera, first shot, Rabbo.
Yeah.
That too, Rabbo. When I landed up on the set, I remember people thinking, what kind of urban woman has he got a Singaporean Indian to play Rabbo? But
Yeah.
then when I came out,
Yeah.
so then again, to cut the story short, after about 4 5 days, then the footage was going really fine. I was already getting offers for future projects on the set. I asked Rahat, he was sitting there, and I said, how do you really take people without auditions for your such an important role? He said, no, we never do that. And there was no chance. But Viru Dada told us about you. And once Viru Dada says somebody, we don't even ask. I said, Viru Dada? So he said, yeah, we took so the way it had happened was that a month back, my brother was in Mumbai. He bumped into Viren Saxena. He walked up to Viren Saxena, who was walking around in a park. I hadn't met him for 29 years, 28 years, or talked to him also. My brother walked up to him and he said, do you remember my sister? My brother had only heard these stories from the family. And he said, who? He said, Namita Lal. He said, oh, meri Annu, kahan hai wo? Kahan gayab ho gayi? Viru Dada actually said that. And he said, uska number do, theater karti hai. He said, हाँ करती है Singapore में, number do. And my brother gave him the number and he sent me a WhatsApp saying, I've given your number to Viren Saxena. I bumped into him. I said, oh, wow. And within 10 minutes, Viru Dada was on a video call. He called me on the video saying, where did you go, Anu, Meri Anu? And will you do theater in Mumbai? I said, yeah. Will you do films? I said, yeah. He said, I know a lot of directors. I'll talk. I said, okay, fine. And as luck would have it, I think a week later, Rahat went to Viru Dada with the script of Lihaaf. I hadn't spoken or met Rahat in 1 year. And Viru Dada said, to kaun actor hai isme? So he said, Kanishta for Ismat. Sonal Sehgal is doing Begum Jaan. Rabbo ko hum abhi dhoond rahe. And he'd gone to Viren Saxena to not only look at the script, but also to play Aslam Chacha, if you've seen the film. And he said, वो मेरी student है एक theater की, उसको try करो. He said, कौन? He said, वो नमिता लाल है, अभी सिंगापुर में रहती है, आ जाएगी. So Rahat said, oh God, this is the same Namita who's been talking to me. And she's played Rabbo on stage. So he said, don't even think about it. Just call her. She'll do it. That's how Rahat sent me on this. So full circle, 28 years later, same director. And I didn't know this till I did, 5 days into the film, I got to know, sent a message to Viru Dada to say thank you. And it gives me goosebumps even now to think.
Yeah, this is how life works, I think. Sometimes it's stranger than fiction. But yeah, what is meant to be is meant, happens. But Namita, tell me, you've been a theater actor, right? And then you started doing films. And these are two completely different mediums. I mean, in theater, you're on stage, you have to exaggerate, you have to throw your voice. And in films, you have to be understated because the camera kind of magnifies everything. So how did you manage this transition?
So again, I don't know, when I landed up in Srinagar, and I remember my first shot, if you've seen, it was just a practice shot which got used in the film when I walk in the burqa and meet Nawab Saab. And Mir was there and Rahat said, just a practice shot. I want you to not project at all, because he'd worked with theater actors, even Viren Saxena, theater actor. So he'd worked with theater actors, and he said the only problem you will have is that you will project. Yeah. So he said no gestures, no movement of the head, no voice projection, just speak. So when I first said Assalamu alaikum, I did project, and he said no, cut. So I said, okay, I'll go 0, and then you tell me to raise it if you want to. So I just went, did nothing. Mir was really helpful. He's a veteran film actor. So he just said, talk to me for some time. And I'd met him for the first time. And he said, just, आप रब्बो बोलिए, मैं नवाब साहब बोलता हूँ, आप मुझसे बात करिए ऐसे. बस बात करिए. बस उनसे बात करने लगे. वो बोले, बस ऐसे ही कर दीजिए. मैंने कहा, कुछ नहीं करना है. कहते, कुछ नहीं करना. आप बस हिलिएगा मत. आप आइए और देखिए भी मत मुझे. बस आप बोलिए, अस्सलाम वालेकुम. मैं बोलूँगा ये, आप बोलेंगे, आप ये बोलेंगे, ना बेगम जान का ख्याल तो रखना ही है, और कुछ मत करिए, बस आप बोलिए और आप चले जाइए.
Yeah.
That was my first shot ever, and Rahat and everybody said, great after 2 takes. Then I got it. I got the fact that it just has to be just your normal. And he said, you're so much in the character that you don't really do. That was lucky for me because I knew Rabbo.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was very lucky. If I wasn't familiar with the character, the tendency to start acting would have happened.
Right.
I got into Rabbo on the first shot,
Yeah.
and that's why it became
Yeah.
quite good.
Yeah. And then Lihaaf became this international sensation. And you say that you travel the world for various film festivals. You even went to Cannes. So just tell us about that heady feeling, and also tell us, what is Cannes really like? Is it really as exotic? Who did you meet? Just tell us, did you walk the red carpet? Just so that we can live that life vicariously.
So again, the whole French part of it happened because I told you I'd taken a week off to go to Mumbai, where when Lihaaf was not even on the cards. And the reason I'd taken a week off was that somebody here in the theatre circles and some of my friends who had started producing films, and that's how I landed up being a producer for Bhosle, told me, you are writing, because I was writing scripts. I'm still writing a script of my own. He said, you're writing, and Goa Film Bazaar is a great place to go and listen to pitches. So I said, okay, I probably will just take a week off and go there. I have to go to work in Mumbai, so I'll go from there. So I'd taken that week off and I landed up in Goa. By that time, I'd signed up on Lihaaf. And I was all set to then do Goa, work in the office in Standard Chartered, and then go off to Srinagar. And in Goa, I knew nobody. I was complete rookie, so rookie that I had such stories to tell, which were almost like, you would be horrified to hear that I was sitting right next to Mr. Rohan Sippi, and I asked him, "Aap kya karte hain? What do you do?" And he said, "I'm a director." I said, "You're a director. Which films have you directed?" And his people sitting around him were like shocked. They were like, "Who is this woman?" So anyway, that was me. And so I was standing in the opening night and I didn't know anybody. I said, okay, whatever the universe has to offer me. I was already on a high that I'm going to go and do Lihaaf. So I was standing in a red dress, having a glass of wine, and the small French man walks up to me. And I said, okay, here's a guy. And I was talking to another guy who had already, this Bangladeshi guy whose pitch I'd seen in the morning, very impressive. And this guy, French guy, walks up to me looking half drunk, and he turns me around and he says, "Are you an actress?" So I said, "I am a theater actress." "No, are you a film actress?" Literally like that. I said, "No, but I'm going to be." He said, "Really? Oh, you look like an actress. So which film are you doing?" I said, "I don't know who this guy is." So I said, "Type Lihaaf." He said, "Tell me, what is this Lihaaf?" So I said, "Quilt." So tell me about it. So I was very passionate about Lihaaf. I started telling him, Ismat Chuktai, ye, wo, 1940s, 1920s, same sex. So he said, "What are you playing?" I said, "I'm playing the Messieurs." He said, "Whoa, really?" He said, "Yeah." So he said, "Okay, will you do projects for me?" I said, and again, that warning signal that this part of the world is like, I don't know what it is. So I said, yeah, sure. And then he walked away. So this Bangladeshi guy had gone to bring a drink. He said, "Oh, do you know Mark?" I said, "No." "Who is he?" He said, "That's Mark Bashe." So I said, "Who's Mark Bashe?" He said, "The producer of, he's an Oscar-winning producer." So I said, "Oscar-winning producer of what?" He said, "No Man's Land, the film that beat Lagan in the finals." I said, "Oh, that's that Mark Bashe." He said, "Yeah, and recently he's the Lunchpack Box producer. And he's the most revered guy in Goa. People wait for 3 years to meet him."
So you went running after him.
No, I didn't. I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "You were chatting with him. What was he asking you?" I said, "He asked me about some film." I told him what Lihaaf. Then after 2 minutes, this guy comes walking to me again. So so this guy Mohammed said, "He's coming to you again. Talk to him nicely." I said, Mark comes, catches me by my arm, said, "Come with me." So I look at Mohammed Khan. I said, where is he taking me?" He said, "Go, go." Oh God. I said, "Okay, open lawns, nothing. I can go and not get lost here." took me to this gang of French people were standing there, and there was this woman, Golda. He said, Golda, meet this. What is your name, Namita? Okay, she's doing this film. Why don't you ask her about the film? Maybe we can get involved in the project. I had no idea what was going on here. So then Golda said, can we meet up tomorrow? I said, yeah, sure. She said, lunchtime, come and join us for lunch. Give me your WhatsApp, I'll call you. Then night time I called Rahat. I said, I met some guy called Mark Bashit. He jumped out of his thing saying, you met Mark Bashit. I said, yeah, and they're asking about Lihaaf and I have to tell him tomorrow something. So he said, oh, meet. Tell him to come in as a creative partner. Tell him to come in. We don't need money. Tell him to just come and give his name to the film. And I'm thinking, whoa, what is this all about? Then next day lunch, I'm sitting with them, two of them quizzing me. So how much is your production budget? I said, I have no idea. So he said, can you ask the director? I called Rahat. What is the budget? Okay, this much. No, of course. Okay. Do you need any money? Call Rahat. Do you need any money? No, don't need money. Want strategic partner. Okay, we want strategic partner. Do you have post-production money? No idea. So, okay, long story short, I said, can you come in as strategic partner to help us in festivals and, give us your name? So Mark said, okay, send me the script and all of that. So that happened, long meeting. After that, two other people came and said, who are you? I said, I am so-and-so. How do you know Mark? And we've been trying to meet him for 3 years, and you had the longest meeting with him. We thought, who is this person? That's how Mr. Rohan Sippy also came and said, so you're talking to Mark for a long time. Oh, who are you? Whatever. Anyway, cut a long story short, the conversation with Mark kept on after the film was shot. He came to Mumbai, came and saw the footage. And then he invited me to Cannes. Then Rahat also went along, and then he came in as a strategic partner. Because he came in, we got a big poster launch where Mr. Subhash Ghai and all landed up. I was on stage again with everybody, and I fell in love with Cannes. By that time, I had realized that I better go and tell the bank. So I'd gone to Cannes also now without telling anybody. So here I was in the media with Subhash Ghai and Rahat Kazmi and Mark Bashe, all over the Cannes media, all over the Indian media. And then I came back and I told the bank that and by the time I'd got a couple of film offers, so I said, I'm quitting. And they said, no, take a sabbatical, don't quit, such a senior woman. It may not work for you, then you will regret it. So take a sabbatical. I said, okay, fine. Took a sabbatical, did two more films. And I came back after my sabbatical, went to the 22nd floor of Marina Bay Sands, which I can still see, Marina Bay Financial Center. Walked in, talked to my boss, looked at this wonderful Singapore. And here I was, my director calling me to Srinagar. They had booked a place above Srinagar, Doodh Patri, to shoot Country of Blind, which is an H.G. Wells story for people who've done English literature, which is in post-production, big film. And these guys were giving me COO of Chief Operating Officer of Wholesale Bank. And I said, okay, let me think about it. Came home, told my family, I'm going, packed my bag, took a flight to Delhi, went to Srinagar, wrote to the bank on an email saying, I have no network, I'm not coming back. And please send me a negative confirmation. I'll try to get you if you send me that you're no longer coming back after a sabbatical, I'll try to just say yes, because that's how I had no network. And that's what happened. So yeah, half the people in the bank still think I'm hanging around on a sabbatical somewhere. After 30 years, no farewells, no goodbyes, nothing.
Yeah. So before I ask you about Lihaaf, just have a question about how is your dad taking all of your stardom?
So dad is very happy. He said, "Chalo, okay, I will not be haunted anymore." Papa initially was very concerned when it came to taking the sabbatical and leaving, because again, managing director, which never used to make me happy, Standard Chartered Bank, was something that they thought I was mad. One girl still had to do college. Both the girls still had to do college. I was pretty much the earning, kind of the spouse as a regular earner. Husband is a financial consultant. So, yeah. But then my dad told people that she listened to me once. She's not going to. Nobody can stop her.
Listen to him twice. Not only once,
twice.
but twice. Yeah, please remind
Not
him. Yeah.
It's not happening again. And I think I told him, you got it. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Nobody in the world is going to stop me now. So
Yeah.
I'm done. Yeah.
So now let's just come back to this movie, Lihaaf. I guess all of us do know the story, but what is it about the story that has resonated across the world? Is it, happening at the right time?
I mean, it's always going to be the right time. It at the time we were doing the film, at that time, that whole article, what was that, 377, right? The one that finally got the same sex, the gay
It it
and
it,
whatever gay
it
rights,
was
lesbian.
decriminalized. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But at that time, it had been actually the Supreme Court had said that we are not going to do
Okay.
it. That was one judgment that had happened. So,
Okay.
so it was when I saw the story, when I read the story for the first time, um, I was just amazed. I was amazed with Ismat Chughai's courage to write that story. I was amazed at the fact that she got prosecuted and refused to apologize.
Yeah.
I was also amazed at the way she had written the story. Nowhere in the story can you figure out what's going on. It's from the
Yeah.
point of view of a 15-year-old girl. In fact, when we did it on stage here, Singapore also still has 377.
Right.
So they don't allow anything on same sex unless it's a totally adult, like they have now started giving it a R21. But we were doing it as part of the Hindi Theatre Festival where everybody was coming, including kids. So when we sent the script for approval, that we translated it in English, they didn't understand it. So exactly as the judge, the British judge at that time, he didn't understand what was written
Yeah.
because she has beautifully expressed the whole action. And not said anything about the Nawab being into young boys. It never says it about what they were doing when she pulls the quilt off.
Yeah.
I think Manto told her that I would never say what I saw. So she took that away from the story. So nobody knows what she saw. She must have seen something. So that's why we never show what she. But on stage we had shown the quilt coming off and the what became the poster later, the legs. So on stage I would pull the quilt and 4 legs would be shown under the spotlight. My legs and the Begum Jan's legs. It was beautiful, beautiful on stage. But when we read this, and this is 1920s, this is Ismat's real aunt, the Begum Jan. And this is herself she thought at that time molested, but that's how she felt. But it was, I guess, Begum Jan's need for somebody to touch her.
Yeah.
So whether she actually went after the little girl or was just wanting to touch her, nobody knows.
Yeah.
And then the jealousy this little girl had for Rabbo, and then eventually the jealousy Rabbo had for the little girl. And there was always the Begum in the center. So almost like a triangle. So the whole story had so many layers, and nobody knew Rabbo. It's a true story, but nobody knows what happened to Rabbo, where she went.
Yeah.
In fact, Begum Jan later we found out from Ismat Chughai's family, because they never gave. Karan Johar se leke Amir Khan have been asking for copyrights, but they never give it because they said we want somebody to make a film which is true to the spirit of how Ismat Appa wrote it. We will not allow commercial because they will show things which are not in the story. They will commercialize it.
Yeah.
And they didn't want that aesthetics to be touched. So if you see the film, the way Rahat Kazmi has done it, it's very subtle. There's nothing in it that you can say, oh, geez, no drama, no nothing. So they basically gave us a lot of things from Ismat's life. And so that kind of, her aunt later went on to remarry. She divorced the Nawab, went on to remarry. But Rabbo is a very fascinating character in this whole story, because she gave to her Begum Jan.
And when you travel across the world, which character in the movie resonates most in different countries?
I'm actually very, very happy and proud to say, because I've attended festivals in Sweden and France and Hamburg, Barcelona, and Kerala, Rajasthan, Jaipur. I have actually been very fortunate because people have really praised the Rabbo.
Yeah.
And in fact, again, I have been sitting next to the people in the jury, and they have not connected that Rabbo with me.
Yeah.
So they have been very fascinated with the Rabbo, but abroad they do come back to say that even here, in fact, Aparna Sen and people who know Lihaaf do say that the film warranted a bigger exposition of the Lihaaf story,
Yeah.
the Begum Jan and Rabbo relationship.
Yeah.
Uh, was kind of we did it, but it could have been explored a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I guess what the filmmaker and the writer would try to do is to put two stories together.
Yeah.
That's always a very difficult task to have
Yeah.
two stories were running together. So you couldn't spend that much time on the Lihaaf part of it. But everywhere in the world also they said we would have loved to see more of Rabbo and Begum.
And Begum, yeah. So, you talked about the time 1920s, early 1920, when Ismat Chugtai wrote the story, and, she had to face a court case, and people were not talking about same sex relationships. The thought that comes, or the question that comes to my mind is, have things really changed in the last 100 years? I mean, and especially when it comes to female sexuality, same-sex female sexuality. Have things really changed in the last 100 years?
No, I don't think they've changed. Definitely not in India, and I don't think in Asia. Even in many parts of Europe, they've told me that it's still not. Even though you see things in France, it's still not something that is totally accepted. And India, for sure. I mean, it has, in fact, in a lot of ways. When we were doing the film, it is regressive. We when we were shooting in this Haveli in Srinagar, only three of us knew what the story and what was going on. The entire 200 crew didn't know what we were shooting.
Really? And that
Yeah.
was deliberate?
Yeah. I mean, you're shooting this story, those scenes in a Haveli in Srinagar. And this Haveli is in downtown. This is only used for film shoots. It's a very ancient Haveli owned by some NRIs. The last time it was used was for that Saat Khoon Maaf, which was
Uh,
Irfan Khan and Priyanka. So
yeah, the other girl from Bareilly.
yeah, so that was when it was shot, this Haveli. So it's in downtown, right next to the. So it's yeah. So even there and nowhere in India, I don't think that female sexuality is even represented so aesthetically and so nicely with so much understanding.
Yeah.
As Ismat then later talked about, saying when she understood what was going on, she actually wrote the story as sympathetic to the Begum Jan and not as a pointing fingers at anybody. So she says that also, that why are we not understood?
Yeah.
But even gay sex is represented in a very, I think, in a very crass manner in most media in India.
Yeah.
Female sexuality, though, sort of, I think there was only Fire, which was based on a bit of the Ismat. I remember Ismat Appa had blessed that film, but again, not really.
Yeah. So tell me, why are we Indians so squeamish when it comes to talking about sex? I mean, we all indulge in it, otherwise, we won't be 140 crore people. So why is there this hesitancy to talk about it? And I'm asking this because Lihaaf is about female sexuality, and, like you've just said, things haven't changed. So why is it that we are like this only?
Again, being a very firm believer in women power and female sexuality and expression of our sexuality, I think it all boils down to Sonu, on the way the society is, and especially in 80% of India, it's still the education levels, the social structures are not conducive to understanding this aspect. If you see again in urban areas, there is, I guess, you and I and people on this group are going to be fairly confident about our sexuality. But you express it outside. There are so many, even there especially social media has its good and bad effects. So you get trolled at the same time as you get praised for being like this. So
Yeah.
it's a double-edged, it's a double whammy. So I think that's where it is, and it'll take a long time. I think it's
Yeah.
a long time.
So now you've spent many years in the corporate world as a woman leader, and now you're part of an industry where an industry that is accused of objectifying women in the way that they portray them. Do you see any similarities between the corporate world and the films? Do you see any differences between the two?
I think the difference in between the two, which is very stark, is in the corporate world, when you go in, you do face advances, but and women such as me, we always had that kind of confidence that we could manage that and we could handle it, because everybody in the corporate world has got that level of education. And now with the whole Me Too, you can also speak up and all of that. So there is a level of confidence among the women who join. In the film industry and any creative industry, the women, especially when you're starting off, and I guess would have happened to me 25, reason my dad said don't go is that you are there to only kind of, I would say, sell your talent. For women, it's looks. When I say don't talk about it, it is a factor. You will be, we will be looked at first, and there is tremendous competition. So when I go for auditions now and I look at the 20 somethings lining up, and I stand there and observe, and the men are all like studs and acting to pata nahi dur ki nahi, but they all walk like a Salman Khan. And the women are beautiful women, but again with their, and there's no judgment. I'm one of those who doesn't judge, but I look at them and I say that's how they will go ahead, because they will have to wear those dresses, they will have to wear those outfits to be noticed.
Yeah.
And now you are in that circle where you're in that catch 22, where you do that, and then you have the casting and do, and you do get ahead using some of that.
Yeah.
Or so I think that's a big difference between the two.
And similarities, if any?
Similarities is that men are men.
That's across the world.
Sorry, Vijay. Yeah. So it's always going to be like that. It's always going to be like that. So
yeah.
Till we are up there.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to be running out of time. So a couple of questions. One is that, again, focusing on your corporate world and the fact that you did theater. Does theater prepare you, or does theater help you to become a better leader? Again, is there any similarities between doing theater and working in a corporate?
Yes. And I would say it for everybody on this call. When I started doing theater, I became an immensely more effective leader. And the reason, there were 3-4 reasons. In fact, the bank asked me to do workshops for leadership around theater. I was invited to do vagina monologues in the bank. I'm proud to say Standard Chartered Bank is one of those who does shows of vagina monologues now across in the bank on International Women's Day. So I ran the first 2-3 shows in the bank, playing one of those characters in front of the entire senior crowd and my team, which was again, a shock to the men. I think they got a shock, like a current went through them. And this is Singapore we're talking about. Where I don't know how many of you have seen vagina monologues, but I did a couple of the monologues, and then I had a whole lot of women do work. And later when they saw it, and then so not only, of course, vagina monologues is a lot about women, sexuality, understanding. In fact, the story is when I sat in with my boss, and there's a lot of Indians, right, in Singapore. So about 10 Indians as my peers, and 1 or 2 French guys and American and British. And I went into the room and my direct meeting with my boss's direct meeting. And I say, oh, by the way, how many of you have bought tickets to the Vagina charity show, Vagina Monologues that's happening in 2 weeks' time? And my boss was an Indian. He said, what? Excuse me? I said, have you bought tickets to the Vagina Monologues? He said, what monologues? So I was like, so the bank was actually pretty encouraging of that. And then the whole, I think the fact that when you're doing theater, you step into somebody else's shoes. You're playing a totally different character. And if you're passionate, you really work on the character. So your understanding of people across the people you're dealing with, it goes up, tremendously. So if operations is calling because they're having a problem, normal reaction is to scream and shout and client wants this and you're taking time. But very, very rarely do we step into their shoes and say, let's just hear what they have to say. Let's just hear why they're saying it. Not everybody is doing it just because they want to, not do it on time or whatever. So my team was known to be a very collaborative team. After I started doing this, I used to train them on it. On how to understand people, characters. And then the fact that I used to get out at 6:30 every day, because I did 12 productions. 1 year I did almost 3 big productions. 6:30 lights out. For me, it was out of here. So everything had to be done between that 9 and 6:30. And then it was rehearsals. And I was so happy in that process that I used to go back to office the next day all happy and so
these are great points, and I think what I feel is that it also teaches you to be what in the corporate world is called a team player, because you cannot succeed as a single star in a theater production. You have to work with others with the common objective of making sure that the production is a success. So I do see the takeaways that a corporate leader can get by doing theater. So now, last question. You've also now looking at production. You're also looking at producing films, and you've said that stories that are about human emotions and human relationships excite you more than anything else. So tell me why, and also what are some of the projects that you are working on?
Okay, so I turned producer. As I said, I turned producer. I started a production company. I produced Bhosle, where I was supposed to be with Manoj Bajpayee and Debashish on the set. So again, a very intense story about the immigrant issues in Mumbai, the Marathi and the Biharis, set in a very, very emotional, put in a very emotional framework, which is Debashish. Lihaaf is human. I think that I just got very attracted to the as they call them, independent cinema, the stories that like if you look at Aankho Dekhi, if you look at Newton, you look at Masan, some of these stories, even stories such as Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, they're fun, but they're human stories, they're real. So I get very fascinated with, and I'm very fascinated with relationships and being non-judgmental about everything and anything, whatever it is. It is everybody has an individual story. There is nobody who can judge it. And I think presenting it in the form of films and cinema and media and theater just lets you express some of that non-judgmental. Look at it and understand it. Don't judge it. So don't judge is my thing. So that's why human stories. I stay very far from religion and politics. So I'm just interested in relationships and sexuality of women and all of that. Producer, yes, I've almost co-produced. And again, it was a funny story because when I did Lihaaf, Rahat said, we are an independent film, so we can't pay you much for this thing. And I said, you can't pay me and I can't take any money. I still was a banker. So I said, I've opened a production company. Can I be involved in film and be involved in the whole post-production? Because I want to learn. So can I come in as a producer? He said, oh, that's great. You put in your producer and we'll give you a bump up for an extra percentage for the acting bit. So I turned producer. After that, I became like small producer of all the films that I was doing. Football. Again, a very local story in a Jammu village, shot with very local people. Oxygen, about the gray part of corruption in India. And then Country of Blind is a beautiful H.G. Wells story. If people have read it, they'll know that it is an iconic story about one-eyed. He wrote in a country of blind, a one-eyed person is king, and that whole story is built around that beautiful story. We did it beautifully short again, and then I did a human story, very intense human drama in Singapore, Before Life After Death, which again some of our French partners have picked up to take to the festival circuit. So yeah, I whatever little money I'll keep rotating it, but if I can tell the story along with 4 5 other people and make films that can hit the international circuits, because when I went to Cannes, they said nothing really of interest comes out of India. We have 1,200 submissions from India every year, but nothing comes out which is of which is real. And that's why you see a Newton makes to the Oscars, or Masan won one of the awards in Cannes. But after 1965, Satyajit Ray's Pathar Panchali, nothing has been selected in Cannes.
Yeah, yeah. So, wishing you all the luck and wishing you more success, and maybe another IDG after about a year when you've done more work and we have more stories to hear from you. So, thank you, Namita, for your time.
That was so wonderful. That was so wonderful. Wow.